Hello and welcome to another Delboy film retrospective and unboxing. And I'm going to do quite a popular film this time. One that you would possibly consider to be a major box office hit. But actually, history shows that that's not the case at all. In fact, the way this film was written, the way this film was made, and the way the film came out um, basically affected its gross profit margin and actually nearly came across as a major flop. But it's definitely a film that I enjoy and one that you'll probably recognize. So I'm going to hold up the cover to you now because we're going to be talking about Starship Troopers. Yes, Starship Troopers, a 1997 science fiction film directed by Paul Verhoeven. And I'll probably talk more about my memories of this film a little bit later on, but I will say from the very start that when this film actually did come out, I was highly excited. Paul Verhoeven had done quite a few great films. Robocop stands out as one. Total Recall, um, Basic Instinct. So when you consider that those three films are considered to be high up in my aspirations, of what makes a good film, you'd think that Starship Troopers, how could it fail? But this film came out at a time where Paul Verhoeven was losing his grip a little bit on being the darling of Hollywood. He'd done Showgirls a year or two before, and that was a huge box office flop. And he had written two scripts that were going to star Schwarzenegger, one about the Crusades, which never even got off the ground. And so when this film was pitched to him to do, he was quite excited to do it, to go back to the science fiction genre, because he needed another hit on his hands. So the backstory of Starship Troopers is really quite convoluted. It's based on a book called Starship Troopers that was written in the 50s, but it's a book that's not well received or well renowned because of its politics, basically. It talks of a fascist dictatorship, really. And that's not something that would probably come across very well in film. In fact, when Paul Verhoeven was presented with the script, he wanted it toned down, and the only way that he thought that he could do that was to satire it in much the same way that he'd done with Robocop. And so the writer of the script of this book made extensive edits to the original script, which, by the way, was called Attacker Outpost 7. And all the major drafts that came out from this were extensively looked at by Paul Verhoeven, changed, and most of the reasons that he did the changes, he said, was because of the budget. And then we have to talk a little bit about the budget of this film, because this film cost nearly $110 million. And a lot of the executives that were making this film were balking at the price of this, especially after the failure of Waterworld, which had happened a year earlier. So they were very close to the dailies and looking at the purse strings all the way through this film. And one of the first things that Paul Verhoeven did was split his budget into special effects and the cast and technical crew. So one of the first things he did was hire most of the cast as bit actors, with a couple of well-known actors that he'd used before. So the main cast is made up of Casper Van Dien, Dina Meyer, Denise Richards, Jake Busey, Neil Patrick Harris, And then we've got Patrick Muldoon and Michael Ironside sort of like making up the main cast. And you can tell by the first 5 or 6 names in that list, they were mostly TV stars, never really making a break into films at this particular point. I think it was quite intelligent for Paul Verhoeven to bring in Michael Ironside and Clancy Brown as veteran actors, because they work so well in his previous films, or perform really well in military type films, especially Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown really stands out to me. He's very much like a Full Metal Jacket drill sergeant, and comes across that exact way. Michael Ironside, well, he can't do no wrong in my eyes. So basically, I loved him in Total Recall, where he was really the bad guy, and in this one he was more the inspiration to the soldiers in this film. So what's the film about? It's very much an antagonist film, really. We've got a fascist society. Basically, you're only considered to be a citizen if you've performed some military type background. So you need to prove yourself in the military to be actually get citizenship. So a lot of students that come out of school either go directly into citizenship because they have an exceeding talent or some type of special ability, or you are thrown straight into the army to prove your worth. And Earth seems to be in the middle of a war against bugs. And these bugs, and why this war is happening, is sort of not really explained, but the sort of like tips to it is that we might have actually caused the problem ourselves. As we keep expanding into space, it might well be that we provoked a war with the bugs when we expanded so far that we antagonized another species in space. So this war is going on, and we're really at a stalemate. And we start the whole film really with students that are just about to make their career decisions on where they're going to go. So we've got Casper Van Dien and Dina Meyer and Denise Richards and Neil Patrick Harris. All are sort of like friends with each other. They join the military, and based on their results, they are given posts. Casper Van Dien's sort of scholarship is not quite so high, so he becomes a foot soldier, where his girlfriend Denise Richards, played by Denise Richards, is much more academical and becomes the person who flies major spaceships. It's actually Neil Patrick Harris's character which intrigues me the most. He's got some type of psychic ability, and so he's instantly promoted into a post where his strategic abilities could be well honed based on his psychic ability. So we follow these people through drill camp, all the way to the point where there is a major event that occurs where the bug planet sends a rock to Earth and kills many millions of people on Earth. So they all start to go into battle, and they all meet up again during these battles. We learn at this particular point that the whole reason that we're going to a place called, I think it's called Planet P or Planet 9, something like that. That the reason that they're going there is not to destroy the bugs, but to try and find out the known ability of a species called the brain bug, because we believe that they have a hive mentality. And that's pretty much how the film is. It really is a film of two halves. Lots and lots of special effects. Lots of interaction between the main characters. But the battles and all of the excitement all tend to be at the end. The beginning is all about learning about them, how they went into the military, how they actually performed in the military. They're all individual careers until they all meet up again and go for a mass push to destroy the bugs once and for all. So, as I was saying before, it's an interesting story, and the reason that it didn't do particularly well really was because of the reception that was given by the critics. The critics did not get the satire. They saw it all as a militarization, fascist dictatorship, and they did not see the satire or the fun that was in Robocop. And from that point of view, this had an effect on its box office revenue. In the first week, it was a #1 film, and its millions came in droves. By the second week, it had dropped to #3 position. So there were other films that were taking over the top spot. By the third week, it had dropped to seventh or eighth in the top 10 chart. And by the first week of Christmas, or its fourth week, it had dropped out of the top 10. And therefore, when you take in the whole worldwide box office revenue, the film only made 10 or 15 million above budget. And then when you take away the marketing strategy on this and how much marketing it had, it really was a break-even film. It's only later on where people have reevaluated the film, looked at it as a satire, saw that it was taking a swipe at politics during the 90s and what was going on in America and how people are portrayed of people going into the military, that it basically became a hit. I found it a very strange film in the fact that when it first came out, it was a 15 certificate. And then when it came out on physical media, it was an 18. I had no qualms about the violence, which was very graphic in it at all. But I had no problems with it. And that might be because I was above a much older age. But I can imagine a 12, 13, 14-year-old trying to go in to see a 15 certificate film going, wow, this is a bit more violent than I've come to expect from a film. But the other thing that I remember about it was that it was actually in the Sun newspaper and a number of dailies showing you how this film was going to take over Britain, how it was going to be the #1 film, how it was a must-see film. And the other thing that I liked about the film when I was watching it was how the special effects were done. I swore blind that it was all computer generated. I thought there's no way that any miniatures were used in this. But to be quite honest, it's 50% model work and 50% CGI. In fact, as the dailies were coming in and the principal photography was finished with, the more money that was left over was put into the special effects. And where there were 2 special effects teams working on it, that soon bumped up to 4. 2 of them being CGI and 2 of them being model work. So this film's got a huge pedigree. It had a lot to live up to. And all I saw when I came in there was a sort of a funny satire type film with its grounding in not really science fiction, but more not too distant future. All the weapons seemed to be ballistic type weapons. There weren't lasers or anything. The ships seemed believable. They were big, huge, mammoth ships, almost like the Enterprise. They weren't like Star Wars with its little fighters and all of that sort of stuff. So from that point of view, and the fact that in my computer days I was playing real-time strategy games where I was building up armies, I was deeply involved in the plot of this film. Absolutely fantastic. It's got an awful lot of elements that you need to take in on this. There's camaraderie, love, death, revenge, leadership, society, and propaganda. And these tend to be huge parts of Paul Verhoeven's early films. And so from that point of view, I'm not surprised that later on, when it came out on physical media, that the money it raked in far surpassed what they were expecting. It became a physical media darling, to be quite honest. And I remember buying it on Laserdisc, loving it. And then it was very much one of the early discs that I bought on DVD. So I'm so pleased that I've upscaled my copy to a 4K edition, and in retro, and also it's a 4K as a steelbook. So I'm going to do an opening. So I'm going to actually open this. I've never actually opened it before, although I have seen the 4K release digitally. So I can talk about that in a moment. So I'm just going to take off this polythene that we won't need anymore, and just show you the all round what it looks like. So it's a lovely glossy steelbook showing the bugs and the aliens and the brain bug on the back there. Even the side is quite nice. The J card, just a flimsy J card, just indicating that it's its 25th anniversary. And we'll take the discs out, and I'll show you the discs in a moment, if I can. You know how these things are when you try and get them out. And it's, like I say, a very basic looking inside. There's not even a picture, okay? But if you look at the wraparound, it's really quite nice, that external. And I believe it's incredibly hard to get this steelbook now. It's quite sought after. There is a digital code to this. I won't show you the code, even though you can't use it anymore. And the discs are all picture discs. So we have got the 4K disc, just there, lovely, with some of the cast members there. Sorry, that's the Blu-ray disc. And sorry, in there you got the 4K disc, which is more battle orientated. It does say that with 4K. How I missed that, I don't know. So I'll put these discs back, and then just close up and show you the front again, because I think it's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm just wondering how it'll look in my little protective cover that I get. I love these steelbook protective covers. I try to keep my collection in as good a condition as possible. So I'll just quickly set this up best as possible that I can. Doesn't take too long really once you've done these a number of times. And we'll bend these in. See if I can get the J card in without ruining it. Should be possible. Yep. No problems there. And then we'll slide the 4K in so it doesn't hurt the J card. And close it all off. And then I'll show you the finished product. There we go. And there it looks in its lovely protective cover. You can see how lovely it brings out these discs. Always keep the J card. But I can imagine that'll just look lovely on my shelf when I do finally get some shelves. So I'm just going to end here by just turning around and saying, what a film. I definitely recommend it. I think the reason why all the fascism and all that sort of stuff goes over my head is possibly because of a lot of science fiction films that I've watched. When I watch science fiction, I think of myself in a different era, a different world, and one that's not happening right now. And so I carry myself into into that environment, knowing that's not quite how things are here. And that's what I'm pretty sure I did in my 20s when I was watching this film. From that point of view, I never criticized it because of all of the politics in there. In fact, I looked at it as being Robocop 2.2.1. And, you know, basically, I looked at it as just a great entertaining story. And so I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I really do think you should look up the 4K. The picture is absolutely incredible. It's one of those ones that I would say is nearly reference quality. I've looked at this as from an uncompressed 4K image that I'd actually got and watched, and I played it on my TV, and wow, it looks marvelous. I didn't see any black crushing of the blacks. I didn't see the waxiness that you get if there's too much dynamic noise reduction done on the picture. It just looked right, and it looked right for the picture. So I've got no qualms if you see this in a sale, or if you've got just an intrigue of watching this film, to go out and get it. And with that, I'm going to say salute. I hope that's encouraged you to go out and watch more physical media discs, even if it's not this one. And I hope you enjoy future capsule reviews from me. Salute. Thank you. Bye-bye.